This is about to go into the interview with the woman who did the Yoni massage for me on Koh Phangan, Thailand. That just happened yesterday. I'm still glowing from the experience. If you've never had a Yoni massage, if you've always been interested in having internal physical therapy work with a sexological body worker or somebody who practices Yoni massage, you don't want to miss this, because this woman is incredible. She not only does Yoni massage and Tantra, but she incorporates CranioSacral work, which is an amazing practice. She goes in depth about the anatomy, the physiology, her traditions, her story, as well as what she and I were experiencing in my 4.5-hour Yoni massage. And I get intimate about it. At the tail end, I share with you my lessons, the things that came up personally for me, because to me it's really important that men and women see what's being held in our bodies, why we're struggling with orgasms. Even if we've done work for years on it, we can still have triggers, we can still have things coming up, we can still have things stored in our cellular memory, and Amy gets into that why. So listen to the interview and listen to the very tail end where I talk like this about my personal experience. Let's all get real. We deserve to have the exact sex lives and body love and self-love that we've been wanting, that we deserve. So here's my gift to you. All right. Hey lovers, this is Dr. Kat with SexLoveYoga, and I am here in Thailand with the beautiful Amy Edgington, who is just the phenomenal the phenomenal Yoni masseuse that I was talking about on Instagram that I experienced yesterday. She was so kind to come on today and share her teachings and her tradition, her background, and then me to get super vulnerable about what came up for me, so that any of you women who might have the opportunity to have a Yoni massage, you can know what this is like. I know for us in the US, we don't do Yoni massages, but we have vulva massages or internal pelvic floor work by physical therapists, and those can be incredibly powerful. That's what I've experienced before I came onto the island here. But then working with you, you bring in such a vast amount of not only knowledge but skills in Tantra, and then you do craniosacral work and all the things in there are so amazing. So I would love if you could share with our listeners what your background is and how the traditions that you teach with. So, because you're very different than just regular Yoni massage.
Yeah. So thank you, and it's an honor to be here and to meet everyone, and it was an honor to also massage you, Kat. To start with, so maybe my background first.
Yeah.
The way I found Agama, which is the spiritual yoga school that Kat's mentioned, and I found that because I started Googling sacred sexuality, sacred femininity. This has been my interest from the start, and Agama is a tantric yoga school, and so I came in 2012 and did my teacher training then, and have been heavily on the spiritual path since then. It's not, I've done a number of different retreats, not just with Agama, like a lot of different meditation retreats, but this is something that really transmits into all aspects of life, of bringing more mindfulness and, Kashmiri Shaivism, non-dualism. So this has been a song to my heart. And I'm still a yoga teacher, and I also teach now for Path of Yoga and teacher training courses. So there's the yoga background, and then with Yoni massage, this is something that's been coming up in I did my first ever one in 2012.
You received one.
Received one. So
yeah.
Thank you. And I was terrified by it. I was really nervous. I turned up to the school very closed. I had a big breakup in 2008, and was still, after that, my confidence was very shattered in a number of ways, of then also trying to put myself out there, but my energy had almost a bit of I was needy, and then I traveled around India for a year on my own, which was phenomenal. And this is where I really first started my spiritual path. And then, but this also, like, you know, India, you're modest, you cover up. Like, I was used to protecting myself, covering up. I closed down my sexuality by this point.
Which is a lot of women.
Yeah.
A lot of women, we shut ourselves down.
And we feel safe, like it's a protector thing. So a friend of mine, and who also, you know, she teaches the Tantra workshops here, Justine, she teases me now because when I first turned up to the school, she called it the hobo kimono, but I had it made for me in India. And it was this big, it was essentially like a bed sheet sewed down either side with a hole in the middle for the head, you know, and a drawstring. And I loved it. I was like, oh, it's cool, I can wear, you know, it's like, but yeah.
And now look at you.
Yeah. Well, yeah, being friends with her was a very strong way of quickly, she was like, you can't wear that anymore, and got me to be more comfortable in my body again. So when I went for this first yoni massage, I was still very nervous and closed, and I didn't know anything about my body. I didn't know about my yoni, I didn't know about the spots in my yoni, I didn't know about female ejaculation, which we call callus in the tantric world. And it was amazing, and when it finished, I could feel my pranic body vibrating for like 5 minutes, and it just moved a lot of energy. And so the yoni massages I've had have all been really beneficial and really opened me up. And the way that I've learned from Ziv is really interesting because it's different to the ones that I've received in the past. The ones that I've received in the past have a huge value to me because I didn't know about even how this is what the G-spot feels like when it's activated. This is what the cervix feels like. This is what the sides, you know, I became a lot more aware of inside my yoni afterwards, and then practicing jade egg and things like this. This all developed my internal awareness a lot more because we're remapping our mind to be aware of the muscles. Like the yoni is amazing. It has 3 main muscles inside, and you can move it like a hand when you start to learn how to be aware and to start to feel. And when you can really feel like a lingam inside you, that's the Sanskrit for a cock. When you're really aware of it, the pleasure is so much more because you can feel it. Otherwise, a lot of us are numb there. Like, you know, we put a tampon in or a moon cup and whoop, it's up there and it disappears. Like, you know?
Yeah, and people say, you know, you won't feel the tampon once it's in there, but it's like, why don't we feel that?
Yeah, exactly. Like, just to be, and it brings, so it's a training. But what I've found is a lot of the yoni massages you'll find here on the island, which I really do say there's a lot of value to them. Like there's no way of me saying one's better than the other, it's just they're different. There's a focus on working a lot with the stimulation and the arousal and to achieve orgasm. And this can be amazing for women that are relatively open and want to go into orgasm, especially women that aren't orgasmic. And it can still release trauma for some. But what I really liked also about Ziv's training is it's because I have a very analytical mind. So I like to know about the anatomy and with release and knowing like it's working a lot with the fascia. This is also his passion. And so there's not so much of a focus on stimulation. If it happens or it can go that way, then it's great. But it's very much about then finding an area of tension and working it and seeing what comes up. And what's been interesting for me, because I'm quite fresh on this path of yoni massage. This is something that I have an Indian astrologer has been telling me for years. I've been seeing him for years to do yoni massage. And I was always like, no. And then life just kept showing up that way. And then through a friend, she recommended Ziv, and it sounded really good, so I studied with Ziv, and then it just keeps opening more and more and more. And I realized that there's and Ziv also said this, that I guess the difference, I feel like I'm going a couple of directions, so I hope you're staying with me. But Ziv also talks about this, that by having a background in meditation and practicing mindfulness and presence, and also Tantra, traditional Tantra is very much working with energy. So I've become a lot more sensitive and aware of energy, and I can drop in a lot more than I would, you know, I can't even imagine now my mental state I was before the spiritual path, but it definitely wasn't that present, and it took me a long time to feel energy. But then also getting to massage you it was, and the past people I've massaged, it's that constant thing of when I'm feeling it release in my body, it's the same as happening for them. But then I can feel like even the emotion in a certain area when it comes up, or when there are certain areas where we were releasing tension, and I just kept yawning it out, and then tears are running down my face, and it just keeps moving through me. So it's been amazing to see that as you can, that what I've found is that if I can drop away from myself, like, as we spoke about this, but for healing, where there's no I, there's no ego, there's nothing happening from me, I'm just allowing it to flow through me. You provide yourself with the skills, and then you allow the divine or the universe to flow through you, and it feels and acts and heals. It's a healing from source. It's not from me, and it's just from an openness and receptivity also of the person to be present with it.
Yeah, and what I can say from my experience with Amy is that she has this incredible presence with me the whole way through, so that no matter what I was experiencing, whatever was coming up for me, she was right there with me. And I think I can speak for the collective woman in that we aren't touched very often with full presence, with full consciousness, and that a lot of times, and even now, I can find where a partner, it might be split in consciousness, or they might be not fully there with me. Maybe they're thinking of something that they have to do later, or they're in a performance mindset, which I have tuned into. My body contracts to that. So when I can feel they're not really there or partially there, I can't fully allow, I can't fully release into it. But having her as a practitioner and her being fully there with me, I was able to just relax into it.
Yeah, it's beautiful what you say, and I felt this too by being able to give, like, being so present with, your yoni or the other yonis that I like, the yoni, the cosmic yoni, is such a powerful experience for me too. And there's something that happens just in being able to be totally present and to worship and be there with her. Gives it. It was the most amazing feeling of love that comes up for myself, for all women, for this power place, this place that gives life, that gives us our pleasure, that is our femininity so much here. And then in traditional tantra, like as I was mentioning about Abhinavagupta, there's a lot of power said about the vagina for women. Like Abhinavagupta said that women have something like an hour's practice for a woman is equivalent to up to a week or a month for a guy, because of this power of this openness. Like we have a physical kind of entrance into our central energy channel, Sushumna Nadi, and also this activation of Kundalini Shakti, the snake wrapped 3.5 times around the base of our spine, as a symbolism. Whereas guys have an energetic one but not a physical one. So the way we can work with energy, and there's a degree too of when someone enters us, they're entering this energy channel as well. So it's about then bringing more consciousness to who we allow to go in there, which, I think and no regrets for anyone. I had a lot of hedonism in my 20s. And you just bring love and acceptance and grateful to know from now. But also then with yoni massage, it's entering with total consciousness and love and sending that and asking, like, the ways of teachers. There's one where you literally, when you go inside, you're allowing the yoni to direct where it needs energy, and it's very subtle, and you're with loving consciousness also going with where you feel the yoni wants, and then there's such slight movement, but you're going with your mind and you're just sending. It's like this allowing again for that channel and just for that loving consciousness to do the healing. It's interesting because I've studied vitalism. It's a form of herbal medicine that kind of, it could encapsulate all traditional natural healing. And what vitalism is they believe that if you can just allow yourself, the aim is whatever illness it is, try and make yourself the most vital that you can be. So the first things are to work on your digestion and your sleep to be as vital. And then when you've got life force running through you, the life force does the healing. So that's the understanding with vitalism, that the life force can do that. And we all have that ability, but we have to allow that for free flow. And with yoga, it's creating a free flow of energy. We're opening, we're releasing blockages, we're allowing prana to flow. And the same thing here is you're creating a space as a receptivity, and then you're just sending that same loving energy, that same life force, and it will help you release. And then, and we feel it, like we kept feeling and be like, there it goes. You know?
Yeah. Which is very different than the mentality of where I'm from in LA, where there's a lot of doing and there's a lot of seeking sensation, and there's a lot of like, you know, we need more to feel more. We want to feel something in order to think that we're being productive.
It's almost like the instant gratification, like you need to have a cause and effect, and
Yeah.
then like, I know, and it's something like I see it, I notice when it comes up in myself, but there's a desire sometimes of like to get an affirmation that something's working. It's like people seek to see a physical response, and sometimes it's just it's a constant letting go, because as soon as you're wanting there to be something, it's no longer, you're no longer a channel. It's the I has come back. The ego has something that they, either it's glorification or something to prove, or yes, I've done a good job. Any of that is coming, and then it can't flow. It really has to be, every time that comes up, you let it go, and you just ask, like, it's a constant trust that how it's flowing is just what is needed.
Yeah, which I'm practicing that right now as the sounds of the jungle are coming in, and I'm in my mind, and I'm like, it's okay, let it be. Let it go. So, oh my God, we even have a dude in a tree right now.
Yeah,
he's climbing like a monkey.
A man up a coconut tree with a machete.
Yeah.
He's gonna get some coconuts.
Yeah, there we go.
This is the beauty of living on an island in Thailand.
So maybe we can talk everybody through the experience that you brought me through, because the whole process was 4.5 hours. You were with me for 4.5 hours. It didn't even feel like 4.5 hours.
Yeah,
it was I felt like we were in a vortex. Yeah. And the time just flew right on by. And I had expressed to Amy a couple of things that I was struggling with, and one of them was digestion. I'd been struggling a lot with my stomach being so clenched and having trouble with breathing deeply and having trouble with digestion since I was being here, and so that's where we started.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. We started with just a very gentle abdominal massage, but it wasn't even like she was pressing on anything. It was simply her bringing her fingertips to these points and breathing in and just being conscious of it, and and being around my belly button. You're like,
dun, dun, dun.
She asked me if my belly button felt weird, and I was like, well, sometimes for a random reason people like stick their finger in my belly button. I have no idea why. It was bizarre. So what was the premise behind starting with my belly there?
Okay, so the way you want to do a massage, and hopefully we remember to answer some of the questions that came up to you before about like what a yoni massage should look like, and then how you can find out, if it's the one for you. But normally you want to start with a massage to help someone relax and feel your energy. So first we massaged your back, and it was just the intention there was just for you to relax, to enjoy. A foot massage, the releasing tension in the muscles of the butt, especially feeling first if there's any pain around the coccyx as well, just to, because there are muscles, like they call it the pelvic diaphragm, though it's not really a diaphragm, but think of it as a bowl of muscles separating your, you could say your uterus, everything that's contained in the pelvis from falling through, and then we have underneath that, the rectum goes through, and it's a separation. It's just holding everything together, and we have muscles that some come around underneath, some come around on the side, so they move like this, and a couple are attached around at the coccyx. So you've got the pubis coccygeus or something, and the ilium coccygeus, something like this. Anatomists out there will know, but when we feel if there's any pain around there, that's already giving us an indication that when we work with the yoni, if there's going to be some tension in some of those. So we feel this. Then when you came over on your back and you mentioned about your belly, we spent a lot more time there than maybe I would for someone else because of wanting to release there. And then with the belly, this is where it's working a lot more with that kind of osteopathic and CranioSacral stuff. So it's a practice of, there's a lot of, it's physical as well as very subtle and intuitive, you tap in. So I'm trying to reach down to the fascia, and then it's a very sensitive feeling of response, of feeling where there's tension, breathing into it, pressing and releasing, and then if the tension will release, you go a little bit further. And this is also with the mind. This is where it's, and Ziv described this so beautifully, that every cell has consciousness. And it's from your consciousness connecting at this level of consciousness to help release, but you're working with this very subtle layer of our being, you know, that does, every cell does have a consciousness, you know, science is there. So that's the kind of, we're working with fascia, with consciousness, and we're pressing in. And so we did the clock going around the belly to help release, and a lot of stuff came up for me too. I felt like, you know, there's a valve that from the large intestine when it goes into the rectum, that we felt a lot there, but also you felt a lot there. So this is where, and this thing of trying to, where it felt like it was holding on. Around the belly button's an interesting one. This can be from tension from when they twist to, you know, when we have a belly button. When they, So from, if it's twisted in a way that creates tension, releasing that can release a lot, but also when we hold tension here, there are some people, like for me, and no one ever puts their finger in my belly button, and I also have no...
I don't know why.
Yeah, so it's a weird energy, like as far as if there's something that there's there, and then for some reason people are drawn to that, but I have no awkwardness of anything going in there or anyone doing it. For me, it's nothing, and also no one does it, so it's an interesting thing. But to work with anything that's there, my sister hates her belly button being touched, and if I was to work that, I'm sure there'd be a big release. I'm looking forward to doing it on my boyfriend, who also hates it being touched, so update soon.
So there was a lot coming up when she was on my left side, again where that valve is entering into the rectum, and I remember she looked at me and she was like, so I'm getting these messages of no, and she's and messages of like, no, I don't want this, no, I want something else.
It was a very forceful, like it felt very much like a no, and a strength in it, like a holding on or a stop or something stopping. And this is why I asked if there's any time you suffer from constipation, because it felt like it was like no, you know. That's the energy it felt there.
And so just working with her, and she's yawning the whole time, so I was thinking I was super boring or something, like is my stomach not exciting? And
it's a different kind of yawn though. It's like, you know,
it was dramatic.
Moving through a lot. And,
and then all of a sudden I just felt this subtle just release. And that was wild, because I was also practicing being very present in my body, and I have a tendency to sometimes dissociate or check out of my body, so it was really cool to have you there, and you would bring me back into the body if I went somewhere else, and also just like doing it myself. Okay, I checked out again, bringing myself back, and so to experience that was really powerful.
No, beautiful. And also because we spoke about this briefly, of how a lot of people have a disassociation. I'd like to mention too, of it was when we found the spots with the most tension or the most resistance that your mind wanted to go the most.
And I wanted to witness all of this. I wanted to witness all of the release, so that was really important for me to come back.
You were very active with making sure I could see you staying with it.
So as you are working on...
We have coconut palm and coconuts falling. It just adds to the...
This is the jungle. This is the reality. So then when you brought me... So we were working on my abdomen, and this was even before she did any type of internal work. After that, you came into my vulva, to the outer lips, right? Well, you pressed on the outside. And what were those pressure points that you were pressing?
So there's pressure points around at the top of the pubic bone, just under, and then and you have to forgive me for my anatomy words for all the bones, but there's you've got the pubic bone and the bones that come around and become your sit bones. So like the pubic comes here, it's joined by like a almost bone-like cartilage that comes around, and then they curve round down and they become the sit bones. And so you press above the pubic bone under, and then you go around, and it's under the bone just as it starts to curve around. It's 3 points, and you just press there also for release. And there's just there's tension that can be held there. The one near the bottom one, there's also some glands where lubrication comes out, so it's nice just to check also. We're always checking if there's any tension, any pain, like anywhere that we need to work through, and if there's nothing, you can send energy or help release, and then you move on. So it's again, bringing a lot of awareness to this area, and a lot of self-love. All of this is to be able to feel connected, to be able to release, to be able to be more embodied in ourselves, to be able to be more in a presence of loving acceptance, the witness,
Where so many of us women I think we're very disconnected from our lower bodies.
Sure.
It's almost like we cut off our consciousness right here.
I mean,
or maybe right here even.
Yeah, it's true. And I mean, it's amazing how many people feel that this area is disgusting.
Yeah.
And I would love to gradually help people to really to love this place. I mean, David Data, I think he talks about something about as if for women to start walking around as if they had I forget how he described it, and it was pretty he was classic David Data. It was quite raw, but it's a power place that could chomp a guy's head off or something like this. But to walk around with this, knowing how much power is between your legs, is how he describes it. But more than that, for me, I'm a big one for love, for really bringing this feeling connected, feeling and again in yoga, coming back to it, the root Muladhara chakra is at our level of the perineum, or the entrance to the yoni for women. Then we have the Kundalini Shakti down here, Shakti meets Shiva. You have all these. This is where all the power is in yoga as well, is down here. And then when Kundalini is arisen, then she shoots up. But there's so much about loving this area down here, and life force. I mean, I could go on about it, but it's so.
And then she worked with my the outer and inner lips of my vulva, the labias, and just by gentle pinching, working with the fascia. And fascia, we've been talking a lot about, is the connective tissue.
And what's interesting about fascia too, because fascia is very, very special. It's very fine. It's like a glove that goes over each of the muscles. And there's a communication always within the fascia, and there's an intelligence to the fascia. And now they're starting to find parallels where, this movement of energy through fascia. As a side note too, just as I remember, all the nadis, the the energy channels of our body meet at the level of the belly button. So to bring that back to why it's good to release there and create freedom. So when we're working with fascia, when we release, and these are connected, you can release something in one. This is why CranioSacral is crazy. A CranioSacral therapist might move something here, be okay, feel that release, and it releases something here. But it's all working on this very subtle level of. It's all connected, And when we feel tension in one part of our body, it could easily be coming from another part of our body. And there's a very deep, Mantak Chia in Taoism, and the sexual Tao talks a lot about the most powerful reflexology is in the genitals, for men and for women. But because it's still a bit of a taboo, it's not practiced that much. But ta-da!
There goes the tree.
Yeah, he's got less things to hold on to up there. So there's a lot of power by releasing tension here that affects the whole body. And it comes again into a lot of self-acceptance and self-love, to even allow ourselves to go there, to have the openness and vulnerability as well that requires it's a very special practice.
Very special, and to even find somebody who we trust. The number of people who've approached me since I've been on the island and be like, hey girl, I do yoni massage, you want me to do yoni massage? And I'm just like, oh my God. Or even just being given so many names of people who did yoni massages. And for me, it's all about resonance. So who do I resonate with? And a lot of the names that were being referred to me, I was like, for some reason, this isn't calling me. How would you suggest somebody find a yoni massage practitioner who is legitimate?
really good question, and a lot of people can learn in all different ways, and their intentions can be very different as well. I have some friends that thought they were doing, this is a friend not on the island, but thought they were doing it for healing, but realized they were doing it for the ego as a man. And it's obviously, if you can create a sensation in a woman, it can make you, so there's a lot of subtlety, and it requires first, I guess if you're looking, what I would recommend for anyone is first just meet up to feel them. Like it's really good to be intuitive, feel your energy, and if it feels like a yes, you can trust that, and we're very intuitive beings. And you'll know, let go of this thing of feeling that you should or you need to break through something, just go and feel it. For me, I always feel the most safe with women when I was first going, because I just feel myself. I've got other friends that felt more safe with men, or rather not so much the safety, but felt like they would be more open to a guy doing it, and had some there's some beautiful men here on the island that I really trust and know, and have heard beautiful things about how they've helped women to open and to release. Definitely there's a difference of polarity of energy, so it depends with what you want to work with. Like men obviously are going to have the masculine polarity working with a woman and can hold that space in maybe more a Shiva way. And then a woman might have more of a softness or more of a different energy. And it just, again, depends what you resonate with, how you feel. It can be ideal, if possible. Like on the island, it's a lot easier to know who's recommended and who's not, because there's a number of us, it's more well-known. Like a lot of us are friends, so I can say this person's good, this person's not, la la la. I can say I've heard great things about this person. So, you know, anyone that maybe comes to Koh Phangan, you can ask around and you'll get feedback. But if you're in the West and there's only 1 or 2 practitioners, a lot of them will probably be professional, you know, where you'll find them through, they'll have their own, they might advertise or whatever, and then hopefully they have reviews. And still it's nice to be able to, whether it's even talking on the phone or ideally having a cup of tea, to feel someone's energy, and this will tell you a lot. And then the next step is knowing what your intention is to get out of the Yoni massage.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. And then to see if they fit that intention. And then the second thing outside of that is having a blind blank right now. But essentially it's feeling their energy, feeling what your intention is, and feeling if they'll be able to provide that.
Yeah.
Oh, that was it. The second one was try to perceive where they're coming from, if it's as a service to help heal, or if it's a service to help, maybe if your intention is to feel more pleasure, but see where their intention is and know your intention. So you can even ask them, you know, what makes them want to give Yoni massage, or feel free, like you're free to ask these kind of questions. But it's essentially knowing your and their intention, I guess, and then feeling yourself.
Which I think in and of itself is healing for the collective woman, because we go into things unconsciously or without thinking, or we don't trust our own gut, or we we're afraid of how the person will perceive, you know, us saying no. So then we just go with it, and even though it doesn't feel good to us, we're like, okay, or we mentally try to tell ourselves, well, they're a professional, or they're trained, or it'll be okay, I'm safe. But internally they're like, for some reason this doesn't feel good, and we go ahead and do it, and then we feel even worse. And they're entering into something that into a part of ourselves that is so vulnerable and sensitive and our own, that we need to be choosy. We need to be conscious about who is entering that space.
Completely agree. And it's so beautiful that you say this, because it's one thing to really emphasize here that a Yoni massage is for you. You're in complete control. You're choosing and in the power of everything, but what it does require is that courage, when we're so used to not saying, to then say how we feel, to choose, to ask for what we want. This is already a really empowering experience, but know that this is a service for you and there's nothing that you have to do. It was a beautiful thing that you said during, which was that you felt that there was an expectation for you to be or do something, because sometimes when we're working, or if we start to work with pleasure, if you feel like, oh, maybe I should move more, or I should show more, or should I be feeling more, when you voice that was perfect, because if you voice these things and if the person's holding space for you, which is what it should be, you know, that you're there to receive and to be free from having to do anything. other than to lie back and receive, to experience yourself. It's about you getting to be in a deeper knowing and connection with yourself and your experience. The other person is there to support that process. So
this came up when she did enter, and she again asked for consent. She's like, "Is it okay for me to enter?" And this is enter inside of my vaginal canal. And you did a pressing on the walls in a clockwise position, and just pressing on and asking for feedback and feeling into the tensions. And it was at one point where the sensation became more pleasurable, and I all of a sudden got this image of feeling this need to perform, or need to orgasm, or need to do something, or like you said, move. And I had these memories of with a former partner who, it was taking me a little bit longer to orgasm, or it was taking me longer in sex than I perceived was okay, and I could feel his disappointment, or I could feel him getting frustrated, even though he wasn't trying to show it. And how much that had impacted me, of feeling like less than, or feeling like I wasn't sexually capable enough or satisfying enough, and also having these feelings of inadequacy because they were with somebody else as well, and feeling that his split consciousness of maybe wanting to be with that person, or maybe they were having better sex. And I remember the moment of that coming up, and I just started crying, and she stayed with me through that. And it was amazing, because right after that, and we talked about letting go, after all the tears, you felt a total release. I felt a release.
Yeah.
So the internal was even more relaxed than it had been. There was some tension that we were trying to be present with, and it wasn't moving until I vocalized that.
Yeah, it was amazing. There were two things happening. There was one where the yoni felt, or your beautiful yoni felt quite clenched on my fingers. And when we were releasing that, the side that you could feel was holding more tension released a lot, and also the whole yoni relaxed more. It was like this letting go where you were, I don't know if that was too loud, this letting go of holding on, and where we spoke about even this holding, that that was the kind of thing that it works on a very much our emotional, it's a psycho-spiritual experience as well, like when what we hold on to in our mind is reflected in our body, and it happens in so many ways. And I think every single person in the world has it, and from all different sources, but the base wound of not good enough.
Yeah.
And it manifests in different ways, and the psyche will find different ways to validate that belief, and we hold on to it and store it in different parts of our body. And so when we were releasing and allowing just that to move through, so much of it is also being able to recognize what we're holding on to. When we can recognize it and feel it, already there can be a release, like just by giving your loving awareness, your consciousness to that area, because so often we'll have things that manifest without us being consciously aware of it, and we just start holding on tension, and we're not aware that we're upset, what it is that where we're doing it. So this was amazing to feel how quickly your body responded to that.
And how this impacts our orgasms or our pleasure potential. Just having her in her fingers inside and helping me to understand this is where your G spot is, this is where your P spot is, this is in the whole alphabet.
Yeah.
Helped me to
That's true.
be able to map that connection between my yoni and my brain, so that when I do next self-pleasure or have a partner, that I can understand what's going on internally. Those parts of me are alive.
Yeah, it's amazing. And this helped me a lot too when I first started getting yoni massage and started to get more connected to my body, like just to get to know and to feel. And I really encourage everyone that watches this to start to get to feel yourself, like feel your cervix at different times of the month. It moves up, she moves down, her texture changes. The G spot, when you're aroused, puffs up, and when you're not aroused, it's smaller. Like, you start to get connected with your body, but the mapping is insane. Like, for anyone that's heard of Nali Kriya, you have to isolate the muscles of your stomach, and then you move them in a certain way. And I couldn't. Some people find it easy. You probably did with your Manipura. Yeah, it took me 6 months of doing 15 minutes every day of practice to get it. You know, flopping my belly over a mirror, trying to learn. But it's very similar to this. Once my brain had made the connection to know the muscles, then I was right. And it's like riding a bike. I'll never not be able to do Nali now, but it took a lot of practice. And the same thing for the Yoni. Once your mind is aware of these parts of ourselves that haven't been mapped, then you form the brain connection, and it's there. So it's like when you look at, when they show you parts of the brain that light up from sense of touch from the hands or the feet. Like the hands, I don't know if you've seen that image of a human body that has the parts of the body made bigger based on the amount of, I guess you could say, space that the brain uses for that feedback. So it's someone with really bigger hands, really big eye, like big mouth, because we're so sensitive here, but maybe not so sensitive on top of our thigh. So what we're doing is creating more of brain connections around the inside of the yoni, and we're starting to map it. It's like, you're Captain Cook mapping your yoni, and once you know it, then you can start to navigate, and then you can start to you will feel more pleasure. You'll be able to also start to be more in tune with what's happening for you, like this level of presence. And as far as when we start talking, this is what I love about all of this stuff, is how holistic, because then we start working more with our intuition. We might start to know more about when we're ovulating, when we're not. And as we start to honor her more, we start to listen to her more. So if our partner wants to make love and our yoni's not responding, we can first say, I'm not feeling it so much, can we spend some more time with some more foreplay or whatever it is, like if you can be comfortable enough to express that, but to start listening to what she needs. So you start listening to your own inner integrity and your own inner authenticity, and then this starts to be empowering because you're starting to listen to what you want and what you need. And when we do this, life blossoms for us, because this is essentially what we appreciate in other people anyway. But then we become aligned. It's that simple thing of when things feel good, when we're aligned, and when things don't feel good, we're not so aligned. We need to listen to what we need in that moment. So it is, the benefits expand out. It's a rippling effect of self-awareness. Yeah. So I love this. The power of to be with women, to support women. There's a thing called womb yoga that's getting big, and honouring the womb and just connecting to her, moving from her, all these different things are starting to come back. And as a side note, sisters out there, the Dalai Lama said the world will be saved by the Western woman. Eckhart Tolle talks about women's levels of consciousness developing faster than men. No offense, men, it's just for inspiration, but there's a lot of stuff being said now about women coming back into their power, but from a place of femininity, not masculinity. Like this loving, this nurturing. The earth needs nourishment. Our souls need nourishment. There's a lot of emptiness that comes from doing a lot of things, but it's coming back to this level. So we have a lot to give, and a lot of that is from connecting from ourselves at this level, and to be really embodied, and to slow down sometimes as well,
Slow down, and that was another big lesson for me, was to slow down a little bit more and practice the art of relaxation. So as the sun is creeping on me more and more,
it's true.
I
can talk for ages about this.
We're gonna end there, but thank you so much for the experience that you gave to me, and it's my hope that this talk inspires all of you ladies to develop a better relationship with your yoni, with your vulva, with your body. Whether you get a yoni massage, or maybe it's just your own self-exploration with a mirror and your own given fingers that are on your body. Connect with yourself. Practice learning her and being with her and celebrating her.
So because that interview was really raw, you got all the jungle happenings, including men climbing trees and taking coconuts down. And then the sun just kept creeping up on me over and over, and I'm sweating so bad. So I didn't have a chance to share with you all of my experience, and I wanted to share that now. To me, it's really important. There's so much medicine in being vulnerable and understanding that even though I'm a professional and I'm a sex therapist, I still have some things that are stored in my cellular memory. It doesn't mean that, and yet I still consider myself healed. The word healed, I think, is very triggering for people. I ask clients, how do you know when you're healed? And a lot of times they say, when I don't have these reactions to things, when I don't have the pain, when I don't have the sadness. Well, here's a news flash for you. We're human, and we have emotions, and we have past stories, and we have things that come up and trigger us, no matter how much work we've done on ourselves. It's not so much, can I eradicate all these things from my life so I completely have still water all the time, but it's, can I have a better way of moving through when I do get triggered, or when I do get sad, or when I do get upset. That's really the point of this. So some of the things that were coming up with Amy and I in the Yoni massage yesterday, some of this was very intuitive for her. So she would say, hey, I'm feeling this, or these messages are coming up, or this image is coming up. Does this mean anything for you? I know it sounds super woo-woo, but what it does is it helps me to meditate on, if she says something, if she says an image or a word or something comes up for her, can I meditate on that? Can I bring something into that? I may not resonate, and I may resonate. Maybe it's something coming up from her that she's projecting onto me, or maybe it is really tuning into something that is in me. Either way, it's a great thing to ponder, whether you believe in energy or not. So some of the first things that were coming up, as she mentioned in the video, was she was doing an abdominal massage on me, and just placing fingers and consciousness on these certain points, and allowing my breath and allowing our awareness and the energy to move through there. And at one point she placed her fingers on where my colon connects with the rectum tube, and thoughts of no were coming up. The images of no, I don't want this, or I can't, or no, I don't want to be here. And she said a few more, but those were the ones that really resonated with me. And we stayed with that and breathed into it, and I all of a sudden felt a release happen. It was a really powerful release, very subtle but powerful, and I was just like, oh. On top of that, thoughts of, and look, I like journaled all of this. I highly recommend the power of self-inquiry. I highly recommend the power of journaling, because it allows us to get what's in here and swirling around out onto paper, out into a concrete space, so we don't have to be whirling it around so much. Other thoughts that were coming through my mind, or themes, was I have to keep up. I have to keep going. I have to keep moving. I have to keep. If I have the power to change something or do something or make something the way that it could be, then I have the responsibility to do it. Which is such a theme, and has been a theme in my entire life. I have so much fire in my body. I'm constantly on the go. And I love that space. I love creating. I love going. I love activity. It's so in my system, and it's beautiful. There's nothing wrong with that. The thing with that is that I recognize a contraction in my body when I'm constantly on the go. I find this inability to release, or a struggle with releasing because of it. It's almost like the waters of the ocean, constantly waves crashing, going, power, movement. But can I find the stillness in that as well? Images of the ocean were coming up for me, which is why I'm bringing that up right now. And then Amy inviting me into shifting that image. It was after a physical release that happened in my body. She asked me if the image changed. And the image of the ocean with the constant waves moving shifted, as if like the edges of the ocean released. And the waters all of a sudden came calm because there was space for the water to expand out. Amazing. Other images and thoughts that were coming in, especially when she was going into massaging the fascia of my labia, images of, am I wanted here? And that has been a theme in my life, as well as very recently I had this experience with connecting with a couple who had an open relationship and invited me to come in, and I had this sensation of, am I wanted here? Which is such a collective experience, I think, for both men and women. We wonder, and does this person really want me here? Or are they just having lunch with me because they said that they would, or they don't want to break a commitment, or they want to show up in integrity? But how many times can we pick up from another person energetically, subtly, that they don't really want us there, but they feel obligated, and that feels like shit. So think about that. When you make a commitment to somebody, but you don't really want to be there, or you're dating somebody and you don't really want to be in that relationship, can you vocalize it? Can you have these conversations? Or can you just tune into yourself and be like, hey, you know what? It's okay to not want to go to lunch today. Hey, you know what? Maybe I don't really want to be in this relationship. Can I sit with myself? Can I self-inquire? Why is this coming up for me? Are these themes around self-worth? Am I feeling not worthy for me to be projecting? Because maybe it is a projection of not feeling desired in this moment, or not feeling wanted in this moment. How many of us have felt that or projected that into our past relationships or friendships? Causes a lot of contraction in our body, which doesn't allow for openness, doesn't allow for vulnerability. So how can you, and I can see how I can, show up in more openness and vulnerability to allow that? Now, as she entered into my vulva, she did this, as Amy talked about, moving in a clock and pressing onto the walls of my yoni. Again, very subtle, very gentle, with full consciousness, and staying there. And we found that some of the places in my wall were holding tension. So just staying there and breathing into it. Again, images were coming up, thoughts were coming up. At one point she found tension in my yoni at 6 o'clock, which is directly down, if you think about the clock, which is right above the anus. And Amy had said that this is really fascinating, that the anus, the rectum, has a lot of fear associated with it. So any type of anal massage or anal sex or stimulation here can bring up a lot of fear for people. So if you notice that for yourself, then there may be some powerful work that you can have done there, whether you do it physically with a practitioner, or maybe you do this on the mental, emotional levels, focusing on the concepts of fear. What am I afraid of? What are some of these things that are coming up for me? Or even doing chakra work around the root, Muladhara, which is very much associated with security, fear, hierarchy, place in our society, in our community. Do I have my basic needs met? Do I have shelter? Do I have food? All those primal needs and emotions. Even sex that's more animalistic or primal has to do with the root. Feelings from the 6 o'clock that were coming up, some of these fears of inadequacy. Am I good enough? Am I good enough sexually? Am I good enough this way? Am I good enough? All these past programmings and moments of time in past relationships where I could feel my partner's consciousness split with me, meaning that they were present but not really present, and having a lot of things on their minds. Now imagine that being your partner, what we can perceive about ourselves as a result of it. And this is something I highly encourage for everyone in a relationship, or everyone entering into a relationship or wanting to be in a relationship. Whether you realize it or not, your partner picks up whether you're there. And now imagine if they don't consciously know why you're there or why you're not there, and they aren't able to speak that up. They don't have the skills yet to vocalize, hey baby, I realize you're not here with me. Then imagine what they are interpreting that inability or that lack of presence to be. They may interpret it oftentimes personalizing it. There's something wrong with me, or they don't really want to be here with me, or maybe somebody's better than me sexually or energetically or playfully, or whatever it is that we attach that onto. All of us humans have experienced insecurities or feelings of not enough, or somebody else is better than me at some point in our lives. And it's very powerful and it's very healing when we can have a partner who can hold that for us. It's very important for us to hold ourselves, and it's very important that we show up for our partners and we can see them for who they are, and we can hold space for them, and we can just be conscious and present with them. That's so fucking healing. At the same time, she also helped me to let go of some past hurts, some past lovers, some past relationships that no longer serve me, and helping me to create space for that which does, helping me to create space for bringing in something that is at this resonance that I'm in right now. So the energy I'm exuding, the presence that I'm practicing, the shit that I'm doing, being able to make space for somebody who matches that. We grow every single time that we enter into a relationship, or every single time that we have the opportunity to grow. Let me change that, because we have to do the work, right? We have to do the work on ourselves, whether we're single or in a relationship. And it only happens when we try again every single time. So you have the opportunity every time you enter into a new relationship to utilize everything that you've learned, hopefully learned from your past relationships, to then up level in this next relationship. So that's where I'm talking about new resonance, up leveling, and having that exact reflection in a partner next. Finally, Amy also helped to reestablish new neural connections with positive affirmations. Positive affirmations are incredible when you repeatedly use them, because you're creating new circuits in your mind of new ways of thinking to replace the old patterning. So some of the things that she was saying for me as she was massaging me, I can choose, I am love, I love myself, I can let go, I am whole, I am connected, I release. And some of these I was saying with her, some of them I was just making sounds. And she was repeating them for me. Either way, just keeping me very present. Sometimes I have dissociation, which means I check out of my body, or I disconnect, which is why my mindfulness practice, which is why yoga is so important for me personally, because it helps me to ground back into my body. Given some of the things I've experienced in my life have caused my mind to have to develop the ability to dissociate for my own protection. However, that doesn't really help us in sex, and it doesn't really help us in our relationships. So there are moments where I would check out, and it was the moments that was the most challenging to stay with, and she would bring me back. Every time she'd be like, hey Kat, and I'd be like, Meh. And we would reconnect back to the vulva, and connect with the heart center as well, and connecting the heart center to the vulva. So this practice, again, with somebody who does yoni massage, can be really powerful, but at the same time, don't expect to have some sort of outcome of the experience. I've had this a couple of times. I've had it with a sexological body worker who's a physical therapist specializing in pelvic floor in Los Angeles. And then I've worked with a tantric yoni massage practitioner. Both of them incredibly powerful. and very therapeutic. And I've also heard of Yoni massage practitioners who do work more on the stimulation for pleasure. It just depends on what you're looking for. Both of them, all of them, very therapeutic, as long as you trust your practitioner. They work with you, they go slow, they're present with you the whole way through. Those are some of the criteria, I would say. Look at who resonates with you. If you're feeling like, I'm not quite feeling this person, like Amy said, don't work with them. Don't ever allow somebody to talk you into working with them if you don't feel good, because that yes and that no is your power to do so. And that's healing of itself. It's being able to vocalize exactly that which feels good, and that to create exactly that which you want. So I highly encourage this type of work. You know, there's so much we can do on the mental level, but the somatic aspect of it, whether it's through this type of work or whether it's working with a somatic therapist or somebody who specializes in yoga and trauma, like myself in my work that I do with clients. And I also often work alongside with pelvic floor specialists. So hopefully this inspires you to self-inquire and to begin to look at how else you can evolve, how much more can you drop into your body, into your being, and you're not stuck feeling the way that you do for the rest of your life. I'm Dr. Kat Meyer with SexLoveYoga in Thailand right now. Listen to some of my other videos or follow me on Instagram. Drop me a note. I love to hear how all of you are doing, and I hope that I can help guide you to any resources possible. You do deserve the exact love and sex life that you desire. You do deserve to be in your body and feel safe, and to feel pleasure, and feel all the things that both just expansive. Until next time.